Hello, my most amazing artist. So I'm here today to show you our next lesson, and we're going to be doing abstract landscapes. So, like I said in my last video, that abstract, there's no right or wrong way to do something that's abstract in art. It doesn't have to look real. You can use any colors, any textures to make it really look cool. So we're gonna do a abstract mountain landscape, and what you need for that is a piece of oil, some regular markers. I have some patterned papers already. If you don't have patterned papers, make your own patterned paper. You can use bubble wrap and paint it and print it onto paper, which I can show you in another video. Or you can use a sponge with some paint and stamp it onto your paper to just make your own patterns and your own textures, which would be really, really cool. Also, you need a spray bottle. Okay, the spray bottle is just filled with water. So if you have an empty one that mom and dad have used for cleaning, you can use one of these guys. And then also you're gonna need some scissors and glue. All right, let's get started. All right, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this foil and my markers. So we're gonna be making the background using this foil and the markers. So I want the background of my mountain landscape to be a sunset up at the top of the paper and then more greens at the bottom. So I have a really cool trick with the aluminum foil and my spray bottle and my markers. So, like I said, I'm gonna start with a sunset. So I'm gonna grab all the colors I want for my sunset. I want purple, orange, yellow, red, and pink. Okay, and so all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with my lightest color in the middle of my foil, and I'm just gonna draw it. I'm gonna color right on top of the foil. So I'm gonna use some yellow. Now I'm gonna use some orange. I'm gonna kind of overlap it in that yellow. Okay, and I know that foil is a little bit loud, but hopefully you can still hear me. I'm gonna use some red. I forgot to use my pink, but that's okay. I can add a little pink higher. Add some pink. And then I'm gonna add purple to be the last, like the night sky is showing at the top of my sunset. Okay, and you wanna do some really long lines because we want that paper, we're gonna be putting our paper on top of this, and you wanna make sure that you'll fill out the edges of the paper. All right, so I'm done with my sunset colors. Now, I'm gonna get my grass colors, okay? Now, you could do grass, you could do snow, it's however you wanna do the ground of your landscape. Now I'm gonna just take green first. I have green and brown, and from my sunset I'm gonna take that green and I'm gonna go all the way down, filling up all the space in my foil. And make sure, like I said earlier, you want to do long marks so that they go from edge to edge. That should be good enough. And then I want to add a little depth. So I'm going to add some brown too, just so it looks like I have maybe some grass that's not doing too well. Some nice dark grass. All right. Just like that. Okay, so now that my aluminum foil is covered, I put my markers away, and I'm going to grab my spray bottle. So with my spray bottle, I'm just going to very gently mist my marker and my aluminum foil. So just like that. And then I'm gonna take my paper. Now I use watercolor paper just because it's a little bit thicker, more sturdy. But I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna stamp. I'm gonna press it down gently, take my hand and rub it all around my paper just to make sure that that marker really sticks. Okay, Now, once you've done that, very gently rip it off your paper and you have a background for your landscape. Now you can see I could have went a little higher and a little lower with my aluminum foil, but that's okay. I like it how it is, and I'm gonna start adding my mountains once this dries. So we're gonna take a break and let it dry, and we'll start cutting and pasting. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take some patterned paper. Now, I have this whole pad. I also have some patterned paper, but remember, if you don't have any patterned paper at home, you can make your own. Maybe you do another one of these where you have all those beautiful textures, but you do a different color. Or maybe use oil pastels or markers to fill in. You can also use just plain construction paper if you just have a solid color. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna choose a few of these. I really like these patterns. And so I'll use 4 for just right now, and I'm gonna put that to the side. But what I'm gonna do is on the back, now I already have some lines on here, but I'm gonna ignore that. I'm gonna use a Sharpie, and I'm gonna start from one side of my paper and just I'm gonna start kind of higher, but I'm gonna very gently just kind of drag it down to the bottom, just like that. And so now I'm gonna do the same thing on the other one, but this time I'm gonna do it on the other side. And it's okay that I have all of these bumps in here. These are gonna be our mountains, okay? Now this one I'm gonna make a little bit shorter. Okay, and then my last one. All right, so now once I have those drawn out, I'm gonna take my scissors and I am going to cut them. And then once I cut them, I'm gonna be layering them. Now, you don't have to stay on the line. Ooh, I kind of actually like that. Maybe I'll make a big mountain. Who knows? We'll play with this in a second. Now remember, you can always pause or stop the video if I'm going too fast for you, and you can always go at your own pace. Okay, so I'm actually gonna take that big one out and I'm gonna use the small one. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start layering my mountain shapes, okay? Now, I wanna layer them so that the bottom one touches the horizon line. Now that is the line where your sky meets your land. Again, that's the horizon line, okay? So I'm gonna start with my bigger pieces, and I'm just gonna kind of layer them like so. That I have a nice little mountainscape, just like that, okay? So once I have it layered how I want, I'm gonna start to glue them. Now, I like stick glue, but you can use the liquid glue, whatever you guys prefer. Okay, so let's stick it about right there. This one next. And you can see I'm overlapping them so that you don't see that little pointed edge. Okay. Okay, now something I really like to do, my little secret is, and it might not be a secret, but something that I like to do is once I'm done gluing things, I flip it over to the back and I press, just like we did at the beginning of the video, just to make sure everything's all nice and stuck. Okay, so now I have my mountains, my sunset, and the bottom of my paper. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this top and the bottom, so you can always cut the edges if the same thing happened to you, which I'm gonna do. Or you can always use markers or oil pastels to kind of add more if you had a lot of white space. I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna trim it. Okay. All right, there you go. Now, something else that I like to do is I like to add definition into my mountains so that it has some more shadows. So I'm gonna use oil pastels. You can use paint, you can use Sharpie, use whatever you want, but I like to kind of go underneath and kind of around my mountains just to give it a little bit more depth and just so you can kind of separate the mountains a little bit better. You can even go with oil pastels, you can smear them. So if you want to smear it and give it more of like a smoky kind of texture. Awesome. And last, you can add anything else that you want. You can add a road if you want to add a road. You can add trees. I'm going to add some clouds into mine. Again, I'm using oil pastels, but you can use whatever you want. Sometimes gel pens work really great. I do have some gel pens. Let's try that out. Let's see if this will work. White gel pen, and see, that doesn't actually work as bright as I want it. So it's always good to try things and just keep going. If it doesn't work, find something else that will work. But just gonna make some happy little clouds. Okay, and then I know I said lastly already, but I think I am gonna add some trees. Now, something about trees, it's all about perspective. So if you are closer to this edge of the paper, your trees are gonna be bigger. They might even cross over your mountains. However, if you are closer to the mountains that are far away from you, they're gonna be a lot smaller. So let me show you. So if my tree starts right here, let's say I have a big tree, it's gonna be really long, okay? And I'm just gonna kind of brush that out. And I might go over with some watercolors or some paint after to really make them stand out. So all I'm doing is I'm drawing a straight line and then I'm adding some diagonal lines on the sides to make them look like trees. Okay, so again, when my trees are closer to me, which if I would be standing on the edge of this paper, they're bigger, okay? They might even look like they go over the mountains. But if they are farther away, closer to the horizon line where that sky meets that land, they're gonna be smaller, like that. Okay, I'm gonna add some brighter greens so they stand out just a little bit more. Cool. You can add some highlights in there. Maybe I grab some black. Just add a little black to make it stand out. I'm going very gently over with black. I don't want to use a whole bunch of black, but just so you can see them a little bit better. All right, so there is my finished abstracted landscape. Remember, if you make your own and your parents have Instagram, you can tag Miss Mendenhall's Amazing Artist, okay? And I want to see it, so happy creating.